Bonjour, Fit Fam. Welcome back to In Bed with the Fitness Industry. It's Nathalie Lacombe again, coming to you as your coach and your friend to help in your career and your business in the fitness industry. And we are joined this morning from across the coast, across the country, or just about with a very special guest, Andrew Coates. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Nice to have you. So, Andrew is a writer, an author, podcaster. His podcast is Live Free and Diet Hard. He's an online coach, he's an in person coach, and he works through Evolve Fitness out in Edmonton, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I'm a
Excellent.
contractor at Evolve Strength, which some people have the misconception I'm one of the owners. No, the owner is a good friend of mine, and
Nice.
it's a growing, I guess, company of gyms. Some are franchises, some are corporate in Western Canada. So doing really well, and I just contract out of there, but it's part of who I am, I guess.
Very cool. Very cool. And so, okay, we're going to get right into the in bed questions. Number one, what's your favorite sleepwear?
Boxer briefs.
Boxer briefs. Cool. Preferred bedtime?
Mm, I usually go to bed just a little shy of 12 to get
Mm.
8 hours of sleep opportunity. Doesn't always work out well. I'm a pretty good sleeper. But if I could have it and the timing that feels the best historically, I sleep best when I get to go from about 2 a.m. to about 10 a.m. So I'm more
Huh.
of the night owl sort
The
of
night owl.
chronotype versus the early morning lark.
How does that work? Do you not have a whole lot of early morning clients, or you do and you just make it work then?
Well, again, I always give myself the 8 hours, and I
Okay.
have more the last few years. I've
Mm.
had 10 a.m. starts at work. I get up at 8, give myself lots of time. I'm not one of these people that rushes in the morning. I always make breakfast and a coffee. Uh, for several years, my schedule was more like a 12 noon to about 9 at night work. I
Okay.
still actually work till 9. I've just
Mm.
expanded over the years. And that was where I seem to have the best balance of just feeling good from sleep.
Nice, nice. Love that. Okay. Um, would love to know over the last, few years, couple of years in particular, you have a very strong presence, I would say, in the fitness industry, especially on social media, in connecting with trainers and coaches and helping them build a business that makes sense for them and shine a light on their clients as much as possible. And what I love about it is that there's an understanding that everybody's got their niche, everybody's got the people that they work with, as long as we are giving them what they need and shining the light on that clients, making it about them. And I love that the way that you do that. How have you found trainers around you been able to do that when they were no longer able to access them in person? They needed to pivot, they needed to shift around. Who are you seeing come up from that doing really, really well? Like, what are the characteristics of the trainers that you're like, these guys are doing a fantastic job at still making it about their clients?
I'll try to come around to everything here. I think there's sort of three things that I've noticed.
Mm,
Anybody who has already had a fairly established presence. So
mm,
this is traditional brand position. Your known names in the industry, whether it's your Tony Gentilcores or the Luca Hosevars with their Vigor Grounds, Chad Landers with his gym in California. These are lifers, and those are people who have always had the principles down of putting the client first, taking great care of that client. It's less about the flash of social media, and they're people who just find ways to continue to create a strong relationship, and that
mm,
leads into, and those are people who excuse me, have a fairly established brand presence, and some of them have pivoted. They certainly knew if where they were geographically or certainly politically, because and we won't get into politics, but one of the biggest determinants of what really happened in this last 2 years is where you were as a political state or country or province, and the degree to which they locked you down. That was actually one of the
right.
biggest things, which is often very, very arbitrary.
Hmm.
You got a place like California that really had their gym, or Ontario that really had the gym shut for almost a year or more of the last 2 years,
Hmm.
or people who were in Florida who probably had several weeks of it in the first go, and then that was it. Like my
Mm,
friend Kevin Mason's gym, BioFit Performance, which is beautiful, right? He barely had to deal with any of this. So it that actually factors in. So the second tier, I think, is the emerging trainers, of people who pivoted hard online. They did whatever they absolutely had to do to take care of their clients, whether it's the Zoom stuff that we're all sick to absolute death of doing, or more of a pivot into the online space and working on growth in that space, and simply doing whatever they had to survive.
Mm.
And some of those people managed to hang on and do what they had to do and to weather the tough spots and the closures. And some people thrived. And that's kind of into the third group, who were the ones that really hard pivoted into social media. I was talking with one of those individuals. Her name is Beth, yesterday on a call, and she's blown up on TikTok. She went from having an in-person business to pivoting really hard into an online nutrition business, and just under the guidance of Jordan Syatt, who and Mike Vacanti, who do a really good job of pushing people. Or you get people like a young man who don't know well, but Eric Roberts, who's done well on Instagram, but he's absolutely blown up on TikTok. And people laugh and malign TikTok or whatever, but the reality is there's a growth opportunity there. And some of these people just went headlong into the online space, and they blew up brands. They blew up social media online brands, which created untold opportunities. There's a lot of people. You get someone who's an industry icon like Don Saladino, who owned a gym for 15 years in New York, Drive 365. And Don, his lease was up just before this whole thing started ramping up, or just sort of just after. So the timing was just pure fortune for him. So Don folded the tent on the physical location. And Don's been on the cover of Muscle Fitness, and he's got crazy relationships. And he's the guy, he trains half the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He trains Scarlett Johansson. He trains Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and so many. He started with Hugh Jackman. So the guy has got chops. And so he pivoted really hard into producing video every day, serving his audience. His social media following blew up even more than it already was. And yeah, sure, he'd had some advantages, but he also had the hard work of all of that legacy of his time in the fitness industry. And he's come out the other side with a very big media, online, social media presence and a big business, to the point where he was able to build this one of the most beautiful private gyms I've ever seen on video. It took me on a tour when I had him on my podcast. And this thing is a 2-floor thing on his property in New York. And it's like, it rivals The Rock's Iron Paradise in terms of how gorgeous
okay, fair enough.
in work out there. So it's one or combination of all of those things. And it's ultimately doing whatever the hell you had to do to take care of your clientele and to take care of your business. While, I mean, anybody who'd already had the head start and the legacy of doing things well had an advantage, that's for sure. And it comes back to just doubling down on the everyday principles of taking good care of the clients in front of you, always being dedicated to learning, developing the relationships within the network, and supporting and sharing and doing good things for other people, which tends to treat you really well. It's going in with an abundance mindset, and it gets cliche to the point where people talk about this, but I still have seen and interacted with a number of people who it's about them, and they come and they ask for something from you when they're not giving anything to you, or they present something as if they're, hey, watch my 15-minute video about the service that I offer because this will help you. No, you're asking for 15 minutes of my time that I know what's coming. Sorry, I'm not interested, right? Like, it's always about them. And if you go out into the industry and you make it about just doing positive, supportive things for other people unconditionally without any expectation in return, A, it's fulfilling, it feels really good. And 2, in the grand scheme of things, the industry and people tend to give back tenfold over what you're able to give to them.
It's interesting, that I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about relevance, because I'm noticing a lot of coaches, trainers, instructors, maybe more instructors, since the last round of reopenings in Canada in particular, saying like, well, I don't have my classes back and I don't have this. And it still surprises me that for 2 years now, they were expecting things to go back. I thought we had moved on from that conversation. And in any 2 years in life, there's no going back, especially 2 years that have been so completely, like 10 times things are moving faster, and our agility to stay relevant and understand. And I feel like that abundance mindset helps pull you towards relevance, because you stay, if you have an abundance mindset, you stay curious, you stay optimistic, and you stay relevant because you're looking at what's out there. You communicate with other people, you're happy to collaborate, you fall less under imposter syndrome, you worry less about the competition because you've just named like lots of people that have been incredibly successful. And then I know trainers that have like 300 followers on Instagram and their docket's full because they did exactly what you said. They stayed relevant, they did everything they had to do, and they stayed generous, focused on the client. And really, as long as you did that, as opposed to thinking, well, Peloton's doing that, or this, Silicon Valley's doing this, or these famous trainers are doing that. There's so much more than we need. People need us more than ever before, and there's plenty of places to serve. So I like that you talked about that and helping us stay relevant and stay current, whether it's a lot of people retired. I'm sure you noticed a lot of people in yours left the industry, went to something else, did something different, but the ones that stayed and the ones that came up now all have a place. And I find, I don't know, do you find that that collaborative mindset actually has an impact versus looking at it from a competitive one? What do you see in your environment?
Well, without question. I mean, the people who have a competitive attitude, there's always a handful of them that somehow scratch and claw their way to staying reasonably busy. But certainly when you see in the online space, there's always almost invariably the people who are combative and self-interested and lack the abundant mindset. They tend to have a fake presence. And there's a presentation that they're doing better than they really are. And they seem to be hardwired that way. And it's ask and take, not what can I do to give. The overwhelming majority of the people that I know in the industry who I've interacted with, and of course there's a self-selecting bias of this too.
Yeah.
These are abundant-minded people who support, give, and share other people. Again, I look at someone like let's use Luka Hocevar as an example, because I like the way Luka does things. Luka's a successful gym owner in the Seattle area. He has a couple of podcasts. He has a business mentorship. His gym is quite legendary. He brings trainers in from all over the world once a year at his main event, the Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Conference. And then he does in-services and brings other coaches, well-known coaches, to his gym to educate his staff and trainers from the surrounding area. He himself has a very, very successful and dynamic brand, but his friends and other fitness professionals in the industry and his clientele and his gym vigor are all on full display at all times. While he invariably is the brand himself, he makes everybody else still a star within the breadth of his media. And Luka is successful because of a devoted tribe of people who attend his gym and love the environment, and a devoted tribe of supporters in the fitness community who see him as a mentor and as a leader. And if you look around the industry, whether it's, again, a Jordan Syed, a Susan Niebergall, who I was just chatting with Susan. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Susan. Susan is lovely. She's wonderful. And a perfect example of this. So I just came from the Raise the Bar conference in Florida about a month ago. It was great. And the organizers, Nick Lamb and Derek Mendoza, everybody should know who these guys are in this event, because this is really good. And then Nick also does an online event, and I'm going to make sure I get the name of this right, because I do not want to flub it. Bear with me one second. Here's a message from Susan. So the Sleep and Recovery Summit. So that's a virtual event in May. And I'm one of the speakers in that lineup. But Nick asked me for, a recommendation of great people. So I gave him a laundry list of people I thought would be great. Maybe people who, great media, great personalities, but maybe hadn't otherwise been seeing as many of these opportunities. And Susan was one of the people on the list. So Susan just sent me a thank you. She was excited about it. She really appreciated it. But Susan was kind enough to take some time to help me out with something recently. She's been a guest on my podcast. She's doing wonderful things in the industry. And you look at something like that, I've lost nothing by sharing my friend Susan. And when it comes to these sort of events, and again, I don't get political or ideological with anything that I do. I won't touch on social media, but we also know that I've gone to events in the past years gone by where every presenter was a white dude, right? And there is value in having different people from different backgrounds. And we know that the industry traditionally has been that way. That's
Hmm.
the community that started up and came up through the industry. So, and there's a lot to learn from those people. But we also have to open some doors for these skilled, qualified people, not to meet quotas, but to help find and break the glass ceilings for individuals who otherwise aren't getting those opportunities, who are equally as qualified. And it's a delicate balance. And I look for this sort of stuff in my travels through the industry. And if I can create opportunities for good people, regardless of who they are or what their backgrounds are, I will. So again,
And it helps us help more people because again, usually the makeup of your clientele, the makeup of your members, the makeup of all of that is a reflection of the makeup of your staff. And so the more that, and that's the makeup of the presenters and the educators and everything else. And so if we want to move away from the 15% in Canada, for example, that actually participate in structured physical activity, if we want to go beyond that, which I would like to before either of us retire, we would like to go beyond that, then we do need to show faces and bodies and systems and ideas and voices that are different than what it was there. And it just helps open the doors wider and makes it more accessible than before. So I love that you're creating those opportunities. How do you divide your time? Because you shared just before we got on today with everything else between, you know, clients, programming, learning, your own personal development, sharing stuff on social, being social on social, which is one of the things that you do, by the way. People forget that social media is you're meant to be social on social. You and I had a conversation on Instagram private message, but that's what it is. As opposed to just putting stuff out there, you're actually, if people respond and you're communicating with them, how does that fit in your non 8 hours of sleeping a day? How do you prioritize it? Is it systematic? Does it happen really naturally?
There's elements of both. So I think there are going to be some people who will literally regiment and book every 15 minutes of the day, and they almost need to function that way. That's how they're wired.
Mm, mm,
I am systematic in that I have my set sleep time based on the start of my day. If I have a later start because my first client is traveling, because he likes to travel, my 3 time a week, 10 a.m. retiree, he's a sweetheart,
mm,
then I don't often try to book something in the place of that. It just gives me an
mm,
extra hour in the evening. Maybe it's downtime. But either way, 8 hours of structured sleep. And then my schedule fills in with the set clients I have and then the people who tend to fit in sort of in straggling sort of random clientele. There's bits of both.
mm,
And within the gaps, I try to take care of my online training commitments. Maybe I'm writing a podcast. I create a little bit of time earlier Tuesday and Thursday mornings to be available to record my own podcast and to be a guest on podcasts like this, which is always cool. And then the evenings during the week, after my workday is done, I have a cardiologist who trains with me 4 times a week from 8 to 9. Sometimes work gets busy. So I work out. I have my workout time after he's done,
mm.
and I have time on my weekends. I do some sessions in the afternoons. And then after that, I get my workout. So my workout is built in relative to where my schedule is. And then everything else is available to take care of if I have writing projects I want to work on. Obviously, there's usually like 3 nights of the week. I try to make sure there's time dedicated to my girlfriend. She helps me out with building slideshows and presentations for the things that I'm doing there.
Nice.
And
That's convenient.
whatever's left over is basically get whatever I'm supposed to get done. And it
Okay.
fits in however it fits in. And that's not everybody's life. I mean, I don't have
Mm,
kids. The social life has taken a major dive the last couple of years, but I try to do little bits and pieces with my closest friends. That's important to me.
mm, mm,
And given the nature of a personal trainer schedule where, I have a guy today, he's sick. He's really dedicated. He wanted to come in, but he's actually like feeling worse. So like, no, dude, you are not coming in. You're not getting me sick. Hell no.
yeah. Yeah,
So
fair
that
point.
hour will be a window for me to upload a podcast that I record right after this and to get caught up on my online clientele so that tonight I have enough of a window to make sure I get my workout. I have to cook some meals. I just fit it in where I fit it in. And
Okay.
sometimes it feels like you're flying by, just the seat of your pants.
Mm,
But I like it this way. I'm fulfilled by it. I don't do really well when I have 5 to 6 hours of nothing to do to sit down and and reading is important to me. So I'll try to sneak that in the evenings when I have gaps where it's like, all right, there's no more work to do. I'm going to sit down and read for a little bit. And I do a lot of audiobooks. So while I'm driving, cooking, doing other things that I can't automatic sort of things that don't require a ton of my attention, I'll just binge through audiobooks. So that's where a lot of that comes into.
Cool. Very cool.
I
One more
guess you asked
question.
about
Oh, yeah,
social
go ahead.
media. You know what? I just realized I didn't even mention social media. And
Mhm.
throughout the day, I try to keep an eye open to the conversations, discussions, or just things that pop into your mind. And I'll always
Mhm.
make a note of things. And I'll try to cycle back when I have free time to formulate that thought, which may turn into a social media post. I post it every morning as I'm enjoying my breakfast. I get to interact a little bit while I'm sitting down having the coffee, getting ready. And throughout the day, if I get gaps in windows and I see there's messages, I will respond to those as quickly as I can. I can't get every comment on social media anymore. That's tough. But I
Mhm.
just try to acknowledge and interact with people as best I possibly can when the gaps arise. So that was
Yeah.
that.
Keep it social. No, I appreciate that because it's it feels like you would live on social to manage all of that. Like you would, and I'm including the podcast. You would live on digital, but the reality is you have your own workouts and your own clients, and that's the thing in our industry is we're doers and givers and thinkers and social. Like everything comes in there. It's not just academic; it's actually happening. And I think that's a big part of us staying relevant is focusing on nurturing our own needs for learning and movement and all of those things, as well as still having the clients and it's what populates the stories. It's what makes you realize, it's inspiring. It's what we want to talk about. We want to hear about people that do what we do, not just think about what we do. And so I appreciate the authenticity and the integrity that you have with that.
Thank you.
As we close off today, if I would ask you, looking at where our industry is now, so we're still at the beginning of 2022, still relatively first quarter of 2022 when we're recording this. What are you seeing that inspires you in your industry? What are you seeing that you're like, I'm so grateful that fitness leaders and wellness coaches in our industry are doing these things now? I'm proud to be a part of this. These are things that I'm grateful for. What would those be?
Well, I'm seeing people coming out the other side really hungry for in-person seminars. There's a whole bunch of that stuff. I've got a bunch of invitations to speak and present at those things. Um, I think they recognize that a lot of people hung on and survived this and put their heads down and worked hard for the last 2 years and otherwise didn't get these sort of experiences. So people are really hungry to get out there and to interact with each other. I think I think there's more of a supportive mindset and
Mm,
that abundance mindset. Maybe it's because the people on the other end of that coin are out of the industry or they've been exposed or
maybe.
they've
Mm,
struggled. Or maybe it's just we self-select to a community where we see more and more of the people who are kind and positive and supportive.
mm,
And either way, I feel like that's grown, that's stronger. And there are definitely more people out there who are hungry to go to a conference, hungry to have a podcast and have a conversation, share your media. They're sharing your work through other media. There's more people out there who want to start writing. And it's inspiring. It's good to see that there's a lot of passionate people who, yeah. Here's one of the big things that I've been trying to drill home for a while with my media, and especially some presentations I've been doing.
mm,
Our industry loves to complain about the things that are wrong. They love it. And there are people who are just mired in this attitude. And quite frankly, I'm calling bullshit on it. It's an entitled attitude that they think, well, if, quote, unqualified trainers and social media influencers went away, if they weren't there, then I deserve the clients that are going and buying from these people. And I
yeah.
call bullshit on that because the people who are complaining about this and complaining about, quote, unqualified trainers, new trainers,
Mm, mm,
weekend certification trainers is something that I've seen a bunch. And that negativity, first of all, that attitude does nothing to get me to look at you and go, you're someone I want to learn from, that I respect, that I
mm,
want to dive into your educational efforts. Usually they're people who haven't done much to grow, facilitate a brand, do the work over the long run
mm,
to attract the eyes on them. Usually their attitudes are negative toward and condescending towards people who are genuinely trying to learn. And if you're
mm,
lecturing people on the wickedness of their focus and their attitude and their behavior, they're not going to go, oh, yes, you know what? You've convinced me that I'm wrong. Please teach me more. I want to learn from you. No,
No.
you're sending them the other way. And no amount of legislation or regulation is ever going to get rid of the bad faith actors in our space, or the people who, the Kardashians who are sharing fitness information on their social media.
Mm.
And let me reformulate that thought for a second. And complaining about it doesn't change anything. But if you direct your energy and your effort towards growing your reach, growing your brand, and people have this idea, ooh, following is a vanity metric. Bullshit. If more people are following what you're doing, and they're real followers as opposed to this fake buying follower nonsense,
Mm.
then you're positively affecting more people with your message. You could also direct more of those people to great people like Susan Niebergall or Jordan Syatt or Luca or whoever is out there who's doing good things. And you're having a much greater net positive on the industry versus feeling entitled to it because you didn't go out and earn it and do the work. And instead you sit there and go, no, those bad people should go away. Guess what? The bad people are never going away. So you need to compete for the eyes and the ears of the general population who are being misled by those bad faith actors. And you have to do a better job. And even if it feels like it's a daunting task, we won't save everyone. Guess what? We'll never save everyone. But every person that gets plugged into our media who finds our message and who's learns that Gwyneth Paltrow isn't a good source of information about health and nutrition is one more person that you're positively affecting, and it will help your business, it will help your brand. So that's my point.
And I appreciate that. It's just, I mean, criticizing other people just builds confusion and mistrust amongst the general population. And when we're trying to get our competition isn't, I'm of the opinion that our competition isn't another trainer. Our competition isn't even Gwyneth Paltrow. Our competition is sedentary living. So
Mm.
really, the more we can work together to compete against that by building trust, and people need to trust us. And one of the ways to do that is that we speak positively. If you're a person who likes this, then that's a good trainer for you. I focus on this, and it's really easy to do, or it's simple to do, not easy. It's easier to just crap on people, like you said. And so lifting one another up is something that I notice you do a lot. If anybody even takes 10 seconds to look at the stories that you post, a good chunk of them are focused on other people, are focused on things that you see or requotes or things like that. And you're like, I found this really interesting. This person said this. And that whole lifting one another up and that collaborative effort is something that I appreciate from you. Thank you so much, Andrew Coates, for taking the time to come to bed with us today. I know you're going to get out real fast. Some people, I feel like they're super cozy and they might spend a couple more hours working there. I know you're going to get out real fast after this and move on with your day. But thank you so much for getting into bed with me and the fitness industry today. And I look forward to hopefully being able to see you in person in the months to come.
Well, thank you for, out of all the possible people that you could have pulled onto your show, thanks for taking that time to include me today.
I appreciate it. Have a great day, Andrew.
You too.